What's your guys' sense of kind of any given year? This is a team because they can be a little unusual. They're such a threat.
So, just over the years, we always know Stanford's a big physical team. They big personnels, all across the board, whether it's open field in the red zone, short yards, things like that. So, we just got to play big and we got to be physical. So, it's going to be a physical game. It's always been a physical game. So, that's pretty much what we expect.
They're known as a DB. They're known too for 50-50 balls. Their guys go up to the win. Is that something they're still doing a fair amount? Is that something you guys really need to be ready for this week?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's definitely part of what they are. And, especially like in the red zone, they're throwing fade balls because, they got those big, tall guys, tall receivers, big tight ends, they try to box you out, things like that. So we definitely expect that. We're definitely working on that at practice.
What about Tanner McKee stands out on tape to you?
Oh, man, I think he's a very smart quarterback. He's very smart, real good decision maker. He knows how to diagnose the defense with his reads and everything like that. So I think he's a very talented player.
There's a big contrast between Wazoo, what they're trying to do offensively, and Stanford. Thompson's, I think, third in the conference in passing yards. Stanford's quarterback key at 11. So what have you seen as a contrast from last week to this week, what you guys are doing defensively?
So like I said earlier, Stanford, big personnel team, and compared to Wazoo, they had a lot of speed guys, a lot of 4 open sets, so they're flying guys around, things like that. So a lot of skill players, and then, with Stanford, got a lot of big personnel, big running backs, things like that. So we definitely, more base, nickel, and big personnel as well. So
your guys' offense do some of that. Throw an extra lineman out there, play all the tight ends. Are you guys facing that enough in practice? Can that be helpful for you at all going into this?
Oh, for sure. I feel like we have great tight ends, from T. Ferg to John Blank, from all our tight ends, Monteval, yeah. So, Cam McCormick, all those guys. So I feel like we're getting a great look when we are doing our good-on-good periods, to kind of resemble what we're going to get on Saturday.
Wilson's a receiver for them with big plays. I think he averages 20 yards per catch. Just as a safety, the importance of no one behind you, is that stressed a little bit more in a game like this against a guy like that?
No, for sure. It comes with the territory. So you don't want to get guys behind you. So you definitely want to take note where he's at. He's a big part of their offense. So that comes with formation recognition, just knowing where he's at and when they're trying to get the ball in his hands.
How are you feeling individually, just with all the reps now, the game reps you have under yourself the last 3 weeks? How comfortable do you feel at this point, and just in this role, kind of finally at this stage of your career?
So honestly, I would say I'm comfortable as far as where I'm at, but at the same time I'm being very detailed in my approach. With my film study, with how I'm taking my reps on the field, and make sure I'm staying in my stance, bending my knees, reading my keys, just sticking to the basics. Because I'm comfortable, but I want to keep myself uncomfortable at the same time. If that makes sense.
An 8 p.m. start's it's a late start for you guys this year. What are you doing specifically to prepare yourselves for that game?
So, being that it's 8 p.m., it's a little bit later than what we typically been getting these past couple games, and I just feel like that's more time to prep, more time to hydrate, more time to get ready for the game. So, it's a little bit different, but I feel like, it allows us to, play well.
You guys talked about the way last year's game went down in Stanford and how tough that was, and is that adding ammunition this week, or is that even needed?
So, in the defense, we're big on no wasted pain. So things, that hurt us last season, we're going to make sure to try not to, bring that to this game, and just make sure we do things better than what we did last time, things like that.
What were some of the things last year that you, I guess penalties being a big one at the end?
Like I said, play smart, discipline football. Me personally, getting off blocks. Last year I feel like I kind of stuck on blocks a little bit too long, just striking with my hands, getting off blocks, defeating us, go make plays.
He's not necessarily like a scrambling quarterback, but he's not scared to tuck in and go. How do you feel like you guys have sort of handled, quarterbacks and run the ball at the same time?
Just you got to stay disciplined. Whoever's on the edge, make sure you're keeping their edge. If you're a blitzer, whether if the back's to you, you want to make sure you read in the back, and if the back is away, make sure you contain the quarterback, things like that. So things like that, just reading our keys, being disciplined, and we'll be fine.
How do you feel like you guys have competed against that this year so far?
So we've honestly dealt with a lot of scrambling quarterbacks. So at least on the back end, we have to do a lot of plastering, make sure we're plastering, and just trying to just cage quarterback the best we can. So definitely, I would say we have struggled at times, but we're trying to make sure we no wasted pain. So
Stanford's always got tight running backs that can run the ball well, but they're also good in space and in the passing game. Casey Phillips looks like he's one of those guys. Just what's the challenges of facing both types of running backs that can be elite running and be pretty good out of the backfield catching the ball?
You honestly just have to tackle in space, be able to tackle in space. And, playing football, you have to tackle. So if we can't tackle, then, it's gonna struggle. But like I said, so taking that practice, make sure we're reading our keys, we're doing a lot of tackling drills, working on tackling in space. So I feel like if we're able to tackle in space, and we'll be successful.
That was a big thing Dan talked about after week 1. You feel like you guys have gotten better progressively each week of tackling in space?
100%. I feel like as long as we're drilling it at practice and we're doing things like that, make sure we're putting the effort towards it. I feel like when we're putting intention towards certain things, it tends to show up on Saturdays.
I know Washington State was kind of a different deal in that regard. They're doing such a good job getting the guys the ball in space. Do you guys feel like you tackled as well against Washington State?
Yeah, no, we definitely didn't tackle to our standard. I would definitely say that.
Last week, obviously, really high scoring game. What's coach's message been really just to either maybe avoid another shootout kind of like that, or how to approach that?
So defensively, just stay disciplined. Make sure we keep our eyes on our man. Just like I say, caging the quarterback. No shooting ourselves in the foot with the penalties, things like that. So as long as we keep all those things to a minimum to none, we'll be fine.
Yeah, that was one of the issues last year against Stanford, the penalties, and there was a few last week against Washington State, roughing the passers. Is that something you can coach to get out of penalties, or how do you talk about that in practice?
Well, you definitely talk about it from the meeting room into practice as well. It's just discipline. You're constantly doing discipline, like whether even when we're getting to the quarterback, trying to make sure we're not putting our hands in the quarterback's face, make sure we're not holding on the back end, things like that. And we talk about it in the film. So like I said, no wasted pain. We're gonna make sure we go over it, make sure it's not like we don't have any repeat offenders. So like I said, just at the end of the day, they'll come down to discipline.
Mm-hmm. And Washington State's a team that has had some really good wins this season. Stanford, not as much. But how do you kind of stay focused and not underestimate Stanford this week?
So just take the same approach week by week. Just make sure with your game prep, you're taking the same approach, if not better than what you did last week. And, you don't want to get comfortable. You want to stay uncomfortable. So that means just watching all their games, watching everything, looking for tendencies and things like that. So,
thank you.
Stanford, in addition to being bigger and stronger than Washington State on the outside, they also like to mix up the personnel a lot, throw a lot of O-linemen at you. Have you guys worked on any different packages at all this week?
100%. Our coaches do a great job of preparing us for things like that. So what we're seeing at our practice, I feel like we're definitely getting prepared.
Thank you.
Yep.